You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening. My name is Peter Basserman. I am chairman of the Branford Inland Wetland and Watercourses Commission. It is 7 o'clock on September 26, 2024. We are having a regularly scheduled meeting of the Branford Inland Wetland and Watercourses Commission. The meeting is being conducted in accordance with Public Act 22-3 using the Zoom platform. BCTV is recording this evening. Please make sure that you're front and center when speaking. The agenda for tonight's meeting was filed on September 24th. That replaces the draft agenda of 9/20/24. They are on the town's website, and the agenda for this evening is available using the information contained on the meeting notice. Then the Dropbox access is listed on the agenda. Let's see, does the town staff have any changes or updates to this evening's agenda?
No.
All right, I'll do a roll call for this evening's meeting. Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, present.
Commissioner Gokowski?
Commissioner Gokowski, present.
Commissioner Bapatonis?
Commissioner Papatonis, present.
Commissioner Meinson?
Commissioner Meinson, present.
Commissioner Omrod?
Commissioner Ormrod, present.
And for staff, we have Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Director,
Present.
and Inland Wetland Associate Katie Blanchette.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum for this evening's meeting. All commissioners in attendance are encouraged to participate, and all are available to vote. First on the agenda is the minutes from September 12th, 2024, regular meeting. It's been a while since we've had a page double-sided minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Commissioner Gokowski, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes from September 12th meeting.
And is there a second?
Commissioner Ormrod, I'll second that.
Any discussion or changes? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
abstention?
Abstain. Commissioner Papatonis.
Abstain.
Was that a abstention, Commissioner Boda, or was that just you're here?
Commissioner Boda, abstention, and I think Commissioner Meinson also said something, maybe an abstention.
Yep, Commissioner Meinson, abstain.
Okay, you have all that, Katie?
I sure do.
Great. Okay. First up for review application, Inland Wetland 240802, 195 Cherry Hill Road extension, new single-family home with an in-ground pool. Jamie?
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent. At the last meeting, I had asked if the commission was okay with me approving this administratively, if I felt comfortable doing so. A little bit further review of the proposed drainage and conversation with the town engineer. I thought it was appropriate for the commission to take a quick look at things because drainage is being sent in slightly different directions, in part. So the project engineer is here to go over that for you. And I also have prepared a staff report based on my review of the application. So I guess unless there's any questions up front, I would hand it over to the applicant.
Sounds like a plan.
Zach, would you like me to screen share or would you like to screen share?
I'll screen share. Since I'm talking, I might as well drive, right?
All right, let me make sure yep, you should be good to go.
Okay, and we want to share screen 2. Okay, just before I start, want to make sure everybody can see what we're looking at. We should be looking at the site plan, correct?
Yep, I see it.
Fantastic. Okay, so just real quick, want to go over what was out there, what's currently out there, and what we're proposing. So what you're seeing here for sheet 1 is the survey for this as it stood during the subdivision approvals. This is 2021 in terms of the actual survey data. It's currently under construction, so things are a little bit mobile, but what was there was field grass from a old farm field, some emerging brush, and some established woods. Of note, there was one sizable willow tree along the northeast corner between 14 and 12 Autumn Ridge Drive's property lines. There were some apparent incursions from 14, such as a fence, some landscaping, and a shed that was addressed through the subdivision approval process with that neighbor and has since been corrected. Currently, obviously, the right-of-way itself is under construction, so there has been some clearing and earthwork along the front of the property in the right-of-way. There has been some additional clearing done along this fence line for 14 to allow for the relocation and landscaping planting that was required through the subdivision approval. And some portions of the site along the southwestern corner have been utilized for stockpiles at various points. But otherwise, there's still sizable brush area, emerging field grass, and all of the woods in the rear remain intact. So that's was out there, what's currently out there, and now let's go into what we're proposing here. So during the subdivision, we had used essentially model placeholder homes to develop the subdivision. Using the surrounding properties, we'd assume these to be in the 2,000 to 3,500 square foot range. The home that is being put on here by the proposed buyer is about 43% larger than what we had used. So because it's a larger home, all of the stormwater assumptions we had made need to be amended, so to speak. So to do that, I'm going to just jump.
Excuse me for interrupting. Yep. This is Commissioner Boda. Can you enlarge your screen? Even
Absolutely.
when I enlarge my screen, everything is super pixelated.
Better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. So the actual dwelling here, and I'll just outline it with the cursor a little slowly, is about 43% larger than what we had used as our placeholders. Originally, we had proposed that the entire building was roof leaders are going to be collected and essentially brought into the public right away and down into the basin on lot 7, not to rehash the whole history there, but that had been the plan. Since we have a 43% increase in area of the building, we need to address the stormwater. In addition to that, we had not accounted on the potential buyer wanting a pool, and so we have had to address the 30 by 18 pool that he's requesting to put into the backyard in terms of stormwater offset. So if we move on to our stormwater plan, which should be sheet 4. So what we have come up with is essentially trying to keep as much of the original intent while mitigating, obviously, the increased flow and volume from the larger house. So previously, the house in the southwest corner had a roof leader line going directly into the catch basin within the right-of-way. And I'll zoom in a little bit more here just what we're specifically looking at. So essentially coming from this corner of the house directly to the catch basin. Because of the increase, we have to not only infiltrate some water because we have to address just the increased volume. We also need to address the peak flows. To do this, we're proposing installing 8 Coltec 330 systems in laden gravel. So essentially the roof leaders will go into the storm system because generally speaking, roof is assumed to be a clean source of water. It does not need to go through a hydrodynamic separator or oil water separator prior to entering the system. There will be as recommended access hatches for cleaning because obviously leaves and other natural debris does eventually get into these systems. So that's why we've included a maintenance plan as well. Once this system is receiving water, essentially it's going to fill up to a point, and then we have 2 outlets. Typically you'd see 1 outlet, but in this case we have 2, which allows us to meter our flow going to the detention basin and limit our flow coming out to the west. So going up to the north, we have actually, with this system, we've been able to decrease our flows slightly, anywhere from about a half a cubic foot a second to a little bit over a foot per second going towards the basin. So that's decreased peak flows going to the basin, infiltrating a bunch. And we also then have this flow coming out, going essentially to the west of the building, the west and the south. This outflow, everything held the same, would be resulting in a peak increase for the remainder of the site. Because previously, the lawn areas were designed to just sheet flow everything down to the south and to the rear of the property as it naturally does. However, to our benefit, because we have this pool that we've had to install, or we're installing, we've had to add stormwater system for that as well. Our office has done several times in various locations around Connecticut is we essentially make the pool a containing system. So you have your pool, your standard patio around the pool, and beyond that, we do about a foot of a gravel receiving trench. So we have this foot. As stormwater hits this foot, it then infiltrates into the gravel where we have a larger, and I believe I've got it right down here, a larger gravel receiving bay. So water fills up this bay, and we've sized this so that even in a 100-year storm, all of the water generated from the pool and the patio is going to be contained and infiltrated on site. That means there's a fairly notable decrease in contributory area in the rear, which allows for us to direct this outflow from the roof, from the Coltec system, along swale towards the rear of the site, and still also result in a reduced peak flow for the site from what had originally been proposed. And that's really the integrals. We got this twofold system here where we're metering how much water we're releasing as originally planned up front, and then using a swale to direct that water back towards the property where it was going to go in the long term anyway. And then the pool essentially taking close to a 22 by 42 square of the property and just straight infiltrating it. So that's really the meat and potatoes of the stormwater. And I know that's the crux of the conversation here. So at this point, if there's any specific questions about the stormwater, I'd love to open it up for discussion to the commission.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Do you have a sheet that demonstrates the current stormwater peak flows, et cetera, and then after the project is complete, what those numbers look like?
Yep, those were found in the stormwater drainage report with the original application. Scrolling down here, and so we have the 2 points to really compare here are what was approved and deemed acceptable versus what the lot total is going to be. And with the twofold system, we're actually reducing the peak flows for all storms going up to the 100-year storm in all cases for this site with the two storm systems included.
And Commissioner Basserman, can help me understand what primary means here?
Okay, so how the program works is there's a series of nodes, and when you have a terminating node, the final one, it essentially just takes all of the accounts for all the various inflows, because we only have one inflow, there's only one inflow listed, and then the primary would be what that total is that's the primary peak flow, that is everything combined. So in this case, because we only have one lot doing the flow, we only have one inflow into this node and then the primary. So for the two equations, you can look at the two tabs, you can look at either of the columns, but essentially you just want to make sure that we're comparing the approved total to the proposed total. So let's see if I can highlight. We want this number to this number. So in a 1-year storm, we had approved a 0.72 primary peak flow. And with these two systems, we're decreasing that down to a 0.55 cubic foot per second peak flow.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Georgina, can you go back to the site plan with the infiltration?
Yep.
Okay, and in between, oops, you just went really big, and I've already zoomed in on my screen. That's good though. You can zoom in. So So between our 168 and 166, we've got this SD line. Is that your
Yep.
storm drain line?
Yep, that would be the outflow for the storm drain.
And then this rectangle with our small circles, is that like an outflow with some riprap or something? What is that?
Correct. It's an energy
Dissipator?
Yes, thank you. Speaking's hard at the end of the day. But yeah, so essentially that's an appropriately sized for a 4-inch 4-inch pipe, which is what the outflow is here. So it'll hit that, and then essentially it's running by grass, a broader grass swale down to a close to 5-foot grass swale at the end, directing towards the rear of the property along the property line.
This is a swale.
So contour wise, when this pipe outflows, it's not entirely a swale here. This is just essentially contoured grading. So water will come out, flow down here, and as it wants to come down towards this lower elevation, about in line with where this perimeter fence and about halfway on 195 Cherry Hill, this is the actual swale that will then continue down and essentially level out towards the end of the property, directing water to flow as it naturally would beyond here into the brush and beyond.
And then this is Commissioner Boda. It's that swale is picking up the second storm drainage with the energy dissipator.
So the second storm drainer is actually a footing drain from the foundation. So it's an outflow for any groundwater or anything from a storm that would be coming against a foundation wall, and that's kicking out entirely where it has always been from the original approval. But so that'll come out and essentially join into the swale and dissipate out into the brush. From a regulatory standpoint, Connecticut doesn't regulate groundwater, so to speak. But what would be expected here would be not concurrent to peak flows. So you'd have your storm and it's on the surface, and that's where you'd be getting your stormwater peak flows from. We'd be talking 12 hours to 3 weeks later, you'd be seeing groundwater actually infiltrating and kicking out of this. So they wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't be seeing a high flow from the footing drain at the same time you're seeing high flow from a stormwater system. And
in the event of multiple rain events where our groundwater is high and our stormwater is rushing off, which is we're certainly seeing a lot more of.
So there is that potential that there would be essentially the footing drain water and ground. We're talking inches an hour. So volumetrically, it's a very small, like closer to a constant trickle coming out of one of these drains versus the flow, which would be more in cubic feet per second. The foundation drain would not cause a notable increase in the flow.
Okay. And then let's just assume that flow is minimal. It looks like I can't see our direction on the map, but we're going to be moving to the lower left of the page.
Yep.
Is this this beyond the property line?
So
is that the property line cutting down the center here?
The big bold one coming down the center is indeed the property line.
And so what? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the footing drain in this area for this building was always kicking out in this location as originally approved. So that's.
But now you also have a swale. So let's set aside the footing drain for a minute. You now have a swale that is also kicking out into this direction. And I'm curious about where that. I mean, I can't. We can see the pool on the right, but I don't know who is on the left, and if we're now sending it into somebody's backyard.
So currently, both properties are owned by the developer. So we're kicking onto the developer's own property. Any stormwater decisions or implications here would become a prescriptive easement at a minimum. That water was designed to kick here, and it kicked here from original design, whether there was an easement or not. However, as we look here for the original subdivision, you can see with the topography coming in here that there's a ridge and a little bit of a valley. So this sheet flow from this site, whatever the peak flow was, and whether it's discharging slightly to the north or to the rear, was always coming along and to continue along this ridge where it eventually drops off 2 or 3 properties away into this into the storm ponds back here that have been servicing the other 2 to 3 sections of the subdivision.
Okay, thank you. And
Yep.
still Commissioner Boda. So you now have infiltration happening around the pool. You showed us that profile. Do you have soil tests here, or this is gravel that you're adding?
Correct. So essentially what we end up doing is when you have to excavate for the pool, you you don't really over excavate because they already do. But when backfilling in here along the bottom of the pool, when we get to this elevation, essentially we compact the native soil there beneath, fill this with a gravel stone void and a series of 4-inch perforated pipes to allow for even distribution within the stone network. And then it's allowed to infiltrate. Now, in terms of specific soil testing on this site, we have not done any, but as we have been tearing up this site, it's fairly consistent with the NCRS report in terms of the soils in this area. So we're confident that we'll get the results so long as the situation is not used where this becomes a temporary detention basin during construction.
We can't do that anymore anyway, right?
Correct. That's not something that should be done. That is not a best management practice.
It's not well, right. That shouldn't be at all.
Correct. Yeah, I'm that's literally just a comment saying so long as we don't get someone doing something they shouldn't do, that it should be fine. Should infiltrate or.
So the infiltration is happening in this gravel area. Is it meant to continue to infiltrate in the soil that it sounds like you've described as slightly compacted beneath the gravel?
So essentially what is going to end up doing is when you dig up soil, it's called a fluff factor. So if you have a volume that's 1 cubic foot, you dig up the soil, you get closer to 1.3 cubic feet worth of fill. When you're then putting it back in, you try to compact it back to its natural compaction level so that you get more or less an equal volume in and out. So when backfilling this, so you don't have fluffed up material, there's a tendency to compact all this to try and get that back to the natural compaction level so you get the soil properties you would have had beforehand. So in terms of this, you dig it up, the soil, just like your garden, if you were to aerate your garden, the soil's fluffy, takes up more volume. When you want to put the pool in and have it have a weight and have structure to it, you have to recompact that material. Don't think of it so much as an over compaction where we're trying to make this a running surface. It's just compacted to the point where it needs to bear weight. And in terms of, I know this is not a system that I don't think Branford has seen before, but we have installed several of these in West Hartford and in Fairfield County. And so far they have been functioning fine in terms of no complaints. The water infiltrates and there's not standing water or overflow from them.
Okay, so the system sounds functional. I am wondering about the underlying existing soil. And I understand that you said that it's been matching with existing soil maps. It certainly seems like if this additional water is going to be directed here, it would make sense to confirm that it can infiltrate at a rate that is appropriate even past that gravel.
So just on that, the pool itself is not receiving additional water. We are simply taking the square footage of the pool. Like we're not directing lawn to this. This is just taking the pool and the patio, and that's covering an area, and we're just collecting that area and allowing it to infiltrate along the edges. So this isn't like we're not directing the whole lawn into this, and this is a localized storm system to handle the whole backyard. This is just addressing the footprint of the pool.
Just of the patio?
The pool and the patio. So when we modeled the pool itself, we've had several discussions with various town engineers that everyone understands that there's about 5 to 6 inches worth of volume in the pool. That when it rains, you have to get at least that much for a pool to finally overflow. However, the agreed upon practice is to model the pool as essentially a asphalt surface. So the volume for this storage assumes that when it rains and a drop of water hits the pool, that it's going to sheet flow to the edge and be collected by the gravel. In actuality, the area of the pool itself has about 5 inches of storage before it's going to even overflow to get into this, but the gravel is volumetrically sized, assuming that 5 inches over the 30 by, pardon me, as I'm drawing a blank on this, 18 by 32 pool, we're assuming it gets into here volumetrically, and that's what we've accounted for the volume in the gravel.
Interesting. Okay.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. What is the volume of the pool going to be approximately? Do you know the gallons?
I don't. That's kind of a standard spec. I don't do the pools itself, but I mean, we can assume. I can do real quick math for you, but it's going to be 18 by 32, and let's call it 4 feet deep on average. So 18 by calculator, 18 by 32 by 4 feet on average. So 2,304 cubic feet worth of water for the pool itself, plus or minus.
Is there a contingency plan in place if the pool should fail? Because that's an awful lot of water that if that pool does fail, that's going to be going into the wetlands and everywhere else. That's my concern right now, based on the logistics of the location of where the pool is going, based in the wetlands. I mean, I trust Jamie's judgment to make a decision, but I just read her report, and there's a couple concerns that I want to make sure that are addressed in building this pool.
So in terms of my lack of worry on this, Branford itself has already gone above and beyond and limited slope grading. Typically speaking, load bearing wise, we consider a 2-to-1 slope to be stable in engineering. So essentially every 2 feet horizontally, you're allowed to climb or drop 1 foot in elevation. Branford's gone above and beyond and requires a 3-to-1 slope, which is considerably more stable. I wouldn't be concerned about the pool itself, a blowout or fail or a slide on this. I honestly think most of these in-ground pools are exceptionally stable unless they're in a situation where you're seeing a floating capability, which would be after a drawdown. Like say for winter, if you were to have overdrawn your pool, you get groundwater that is exceptionally high. And you actually end up with the pool floating vertically out of the water when you end up, buoyancy. So the pool becomes buoyant in the soil and floats. In this situation, if we look at the pool itself, we're going to mostly be in fill. So there really shouldn't be a groundwater interaction. In the northeast corner, we're going to be in native material, but the further out we go towards where your concern is, this is going to be, it's native material. It's on site here. It's not soil that we're unfamiliar with, but it's going to be compacted and built up on the down and backside to be structurally stable. And that's not uncommon. What I would think is uncommon is to find a buoyancy situation after we build up above where natural grade currently is. Groundwater shouldn't, I would be surprised if it swelled to ride higher than that. Typically groundwater, once it's in a stable state, rides along impervious surfaces like bedrock, clay, silt, and fines, or in low areas, that's where you end up seeing streams and ponds that naturally are fed by groundwater.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is Commissioner Covington.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry. All right, so we approved a plan for 10 or 11 houses on the street, right? And we approved a plan that the houses would be 2,000 to 3,000 square feet for each house. Is that right?
Ballpark, yeah.
Okay. And so this house is 43% bigger than we had approved, and there's still 10 other lots where houses are being built that are probably all going to be 43% bigger than what we approved in the first place? Is that, so are we going to be back here 10 more times on the same issue?
At most, we would be back here for lots 7 through, this is 11, so 7, 8, 9, and 10. The other lots are not impacting on wetlands, so
Okay.
there wouldn't be a callback. And in all honesty, the reason we're back here is due to the fact that this building is larger and we are taking the appropriate actions. There's been a little bit of shuffling of how water's directed on site. So we're here because we're being responsible in dealing with the water, and now the proper procedure is to come before you to discuss and address this. It's not as if we're trying to throw a 43% larger house on here and go, nah, the water's fine, we're not dealing with it, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine. We're taking appropriate actions to mitigate the water, the peak flows, and infiltrate as much as we possibly can.
Okay, Commissioner Papantonis again, I understand that, but there's 5 other lots that are potentially going to have this issue because, as I understand it, all the houses that are planned to be built on this extension are all going to be of similar size. So they're all going to be 43% bigger than the original plan.
With all due respect, Commissioner, I don't even know that number. They're individual buyers who are coming with their individual architects with what size houses they want. So I can't answer. Currently, I know that we had one buyer originally come in looking at lot 10, and their house was only 2,800 square foot that they wanted. That buyer ended up not being able to get funding and backed out, but it's lot to lot. Lot 1 across the street was within 8% of the original size. So I can't tell you that they're all going to be 43%. I can't tell you that they're all going to be spot on. It's individual buyers. The subdivision and the road were what were gone through and approved, and then just like any other subdivision, we're selling to individual lots. This is not a build to spec situation. These are build based on the buyers, what they're looking to put on there, just like any other home buyer of a vacant lot would be.
All right, and Commissioner Papantonis again, and as I understand it, the extra water would be going then to lot 10?
So flow wise, going to lot 7, which has always been going to lot 7. So volume wise to the basin, we're going the same, or a less flow going to the basin lot 7. In terms of lot 10 was always seeing even a higher peak flow before this. So what we're doing, everything that's being done here to be responsible, is decreasing what the peak storm flow is going to be on lot 10. We're just reconfiguring how that flow is getting there. So before, it was a completely uncontained backyard sheet flowing across the lawn. Now we've got a backyard that's, again, going to be uncontained. And then with the larger house, that is, we're taking that, we're infiltrating close to 2,000 gallons on every storm from the house. So taking that out of the equation to begin with. And then we're directing that water along a mutually beneficial swale to then join in the rear of the property where it had always been approved to go, along this natural swale in the woods going back along behind lot 10 and beyond.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Basserman. How are we dealing with the pool wastewater?
Jamie can direct this if she wants, but from a health department standpoint, there's essentially 3 ways to deal with pool water. It's a salt water, which everyone hears that and immediately thinks the ocean, but it's closer in salt content to saline drops you'd put in your eyes. But the 3 methods are: one is a straight direct drawdown, which by regulation can't be done within 50 feet of a wetland. And that would be essentially you run a pump and you would discharge water for your seasonal drawdown. Number 2, that's pretty common nationwide, would be to essentially run a hose into your house and use your essentially your bathtub to run it. And then number 3 would be to run it into a public storm system with approval from the local health department. There's also, and it's less common, there are drawdown companies you can call that'll come out and actually pump down a pool for you. What they do with the water, I'm not sure. Not my MO, but I know these companies exist. And in terms of, I'm going to say detrimental, but this is it's more detrimental than the salt water is for the pool, but it would be a backwash from the system. That's typically backwashed, either done into a container and emptied into a waste receptacle, such again like a tub or something like that in terms of interior for passing through stormwater. Having someone do that, those services do exist, and remove it, or you would essentially do a backwash of your filter, discharge it again outside of that 50-foot distance from the wetland, and then you would flush the area with clean water after that to dilute. Because we all know dilution is the solution to contaminants. And again, the contaminants from a filter in a pool, we're looking at biological and salt buildup. So those are both what you'd want to be diluting with water versus a chlorine pool where you would have potentially a chlorine sink.
Do we know, Ms. Commissioner Batts again, do we know what kind of filter they're using?
Quite literally between when my last memo and this, we actually got a confirmation they're going to be using a cartridge filter. So essentially the filter itself is cartridges. They should be able to be disposed of. It would just be a minimal flush after changing cartridges.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Jamie, Ms. Commissioner Batts again. Jamie, you had some concerns, I think, as to why you wanted to bring this before the commission again. With tonight's discussion, is there anything outstanding from your standpoint?
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. So, I mean, we've touched base on it. I guess the main concern is, I'm going to quickly jump over to.
Do you want to drive?
Yeah, I'm going to jump over to the subdivision site plan. Can everyone see lot 11, 10, 9?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the off-site wetland areas. So you can see generally that the site is pitched to drain. What is it? South.
Southeast. Southeast,
and
yeah.
So if we jump over to the proposed plan, you know, the grading kind of mimics that, with the exception of this swale, which then will follow the natural contours. But the concern, I guess, that I had in part, aside from changing directions of flows, is the concentration of flow. And so the question ultimately is the vegetation, the lawn area, and the existing vegetation to remain sufficient to handle the velocity and volume of flow that would be going through that area, so that it wouldn't cause any issues regarding stability that might impact the wetlands.
So if I may, the easier of the two questions to answer is, because we are decreasing the flow from this site, the off-site impacts are going to be less. Once we get to that brush and going beyond, there's less peak flow volume, that's less velocity, that's less water going through the existing brush. So that's going to be a decreased impact in terms of that brush will hold up. We're not going to see scouring as a result of this. The higher concern would be the
time out for a second. This is Commissioner Bodo. So you're saying decreased peak flow, but what I'm not hearing is a decreased volume as well. So is there an increased volume in this outflow?
There's inherently an increased volume with all development. It is essentially unavoidable. We are essentially
if you're infiltrating it.
Well, as I was going to say, so what we are doing is we are with the pool, and it varies by storm, but in the 100-year storm, the pool essentially will be infiltrating close to 4,000 gallons of water instead of letting that sheet flow across the site to infiltrate naturally or what have you. So we're retaining that. In all storms, the Coltech system's infiltrating about 2,000 gallons worth of water as well. And then dividing that, the overflow from that, so the outflow from those, between the detention basin further beyond on lot 7, and then directing it to the rear. So there will most likely, essentially turning the site from brush into lawn, there's going to be an increased volume. That's just naturally what's going to happen with any site that's been developed in the whole wide world. If you take something from a forested, wooded area or a brush area or natural field to lawn, you're going to increase volume and you're going to increase runoff rate. It's just that's a natural thing. The goal is to, by mitigating, decrease the peak flows under the assumption that downstream, if they can handle the existing volume of water, if you can decrease that peak flow and make that flow over a longer period of time, you alleviate the strain of the added volume. And that's what all this is doing, is we're aiming here to decrease that peak flow and minimize our increase to volume. Did that answer? Or Commissioner Bada? Sorry.
Jamie had, this is Commissioner Boda. Jamie had originally posed it, so I was leaving space for Jamie to address I have a follow-up, but Jamie, I had just jumped in because I wanted to clarify, but.
Well, I was asking the question generally for the commission's benefit, so I guess I would leave it open to any of the commissioners have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Boda. I am also now wondering, as we're looking at this outflow in the swale, about any nutrient loading that is going to be coming off of this lawn and carried by that volume through the swale heading toward the wetlands. I think it is safe to say that these will be treated lawns, and so. Can you talk a little bit about nutrient and retention of those nutrients and how that's going to happen so that we don't end up essentially sending all those nutrients toward the pond, creating, quite a problem over a period of time?
So I am not an environmental engineer. That's really outside of my office's wheelhouse to address the nutrient loading, so to speak. It's not a site engineer's position. What I can tell you is this wetland, this pond, this is an integral part of the existing subdivision. Quite literally, every property on Autumn Ridge has an easement to direct their stormwater into this pond from their lawns. Abbey Road utilizes these three ponds. They were historically farm ponds that have been used for stormwater drainage forever. They've been classified as wetlands at this point because of the nutrients going to the ponds and the species that have established themselves there, and the soils resulting that have become and grown themselves to be classified as wetland soil. But this is not a virgin wetland that we are discussing here. This is a farm pond that has been retrofitted to be a stormwater system for Autumn Ridge, Abbey Road, and presumably if the project had not lost funding previously, this would have been developed and also feeding into this as it was to begin with. Since we are not part of that original subdivision, continuing on the phasing, we're really trying to do our due diligence here to mitigate our impacts on these ponds to begin with. But I'm not in a position to accurately tell you any information about the nutrient loading.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. Jamie, you've been quiet. What are your thoughts?
I guess I wanted to leave it open for commissioners to ask their questions. And then if there are no more questions, I can run through the staff report, see if that comes up with anything else or.
Commissioner Brassen, Jamie, do we have the town engineer sign off on this?
The town engineer did review the revised materials that were submitted, and he didn't have any further comments or questions to submit.
Okay, why don't we look at the staff report?
All right. So this did require RWA notification, which was sent out. We did receive a comment letter back with what I would say are probably pretty standard comments. We went over the fact that this is part of a subdivision that was recently approved. I did notice that there appeared to be a typo on the labeling of the 162-foot contour, so I'm suggesting that that should be revised prior to start of site work to make sure there's no confusion in the field. And I noted that the grading extends off the property to show how it would tie in with the proposed subdivision grading. So I'm just commenting that of course, this review would apply only to the subject property to which it pertains for. Stormwater management, we've gone over that, so I don't know if you want me to read it. I think we've discussed pretty much everything in here with the exception of that I'm recommending that the applicant place a drainage easement or other mechanism to clearly document the rights to drain related to the proposed drainage and the spanning across property lines. Landscaping, there's no specific landscaping proposed on the plan. However, they are proposing to retain the vegetation within 50 plus feet, depending on where you're at, of the wetlands / pond. Planning and zoning approval will be required. Possible conditions for consideration if the commission feels ready to make a decision and thinks approval is appropriate includes pre-construction meeting prior to clearing, initial erosion control inspection prior to land disturbance, final inspection. Everything should be marked out by a surveyor and certified as built, and that everything has been constructed as proposed with final grading and stormwater structures. Prior to start of site work, site plan shall be revised to correctly label the proposed 162-foot contour. Prior to any work related to the pool commencing, information regarding the proposed filtration system and dewatering practices shall be submitted to the Inland Wetland Office for review by the duly authorized agent. I will just quickly note there is some dewatering comments on the site plan already. And then our standard condition, pool water shall not be drained into wetlands, watercourses, streets, or within 50 feet of these areas or to any storm drainage system. Standard conditions and general provisions. Any questions from commissioners?
Yes, Commissioner Basserman, I am a little bit uneasy with the fact that we have kind of an open question raised by Commissioner Boda regarding the treatment of the lawns and the runoff, especially with the increased volume. Add to that the fact that this is, one of the lots in the subdivision, and it's probably not uncommon that this is going to be something that we face on other lots that come before us. As noted before, a number of lots are likely to have larger houses than what the original subdivision approval was for. And I'm struck with the fact that that's still kind of an unanswered question. And I don't know if other commissioners are concerned as well.
So I guess I have two comments to that point. One could be commission could request like an IPM plan about management of the lawn area. I don't know that has kind of generally been practiced for a single family house, but it's something that you could consider. And then I'm not a professional regarding nutrient removal or anything like that. The one comment I have is based on the existing grading, which of course we don't know what's going to happen downgrade on the other lots to be developed, is that the water would be directed through this vegetated area, and it would actually travel south a ways before it would travel to one of the ponds. So it has areas that it would be traveling through where some of those nutrients might, I don't know though. That is not a professional opinion, but
if I may just to add on this, So the pool is self-contained. So that's water from the pool is going into this gravel system to be treated. Other than 100 years, actually anything over a 50-year storm, which is still a lot of water, you're not going to see what the pool itself overflowing because again, you've got that 5 to 6 inches, but we account for that in the volume wise. Again, this is salt water, saline like saline water, like you'd put in eye drops or whatnot. So it's not particularly a high concentrated salt water, which would then be being
Commissioner
infiltrated.
Bass, I'm not concerned about the pool. It's the lawn treat.
I understand that. I do what I'm saying is the point load from Jamie up that Jamie mentioned up front, essentially from this Coltech system, is coming from the roof. There won't be any nutrients on there. What's going to be directed down here is square footage wise less treatment lawn than what was approved in the original subdivision. It's a larger house. It's a pool. There's physically less grass, less lawn, less to be treated than what had originally been approved in the subdivision. I can't tell you nutrients removal. It's not my area of expertise, but from a square footage standpoint, it's physically less square feet. Than it was to begin with. It's a larger driveway that we've accounted for in all the calculations. So there's physically less fertilizer, less area to apply it to. Other than that, I can't.
What's the reduction in the lawn? What's the reduction in the lawn square footage?
I don't know off the top. Hold on, I can probably get you that answer. I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see here.
This is Commissioner Ormrod. I get while he calculates that. I mean, this is an undeveloped lot right now, so there's no lawn being maintained, right? This is just the difference between what was allowed and what's proposed here.
Just for clarification, was that directed at me?
Commissioner Ormrod. I guess. I mean, I just think that the calculations kind of moot because if it's not being maintained as a lawn now, I mean, it's inherently better than even if a proposed smaller lawn that will be maintained as a lawn and with potentially a lot of inputs to that lawn.
But there's no nutrients being applied today to that.
That's correct, but we rolled this back to prior to it being a vacant lot. It was actively a farm being farmed with nutrients being applied to the farm for the
Take
farm
a shower
ponds.
right now.
You're not muted.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Ormrod, I guess, I do I do have those same concerns. This is an issue we're seeing not just in Branford, but elsewhere. But, any of our shallow surface water ponds or lakes, they tend to get nutrient loading and they go towards these eutrophic conditions over time. But I don't know as a commission if, especially in this case where there's no proposed wetland activities, it's all in the upland review. I guess the only piece of information that I think might help us make a decision is, I think infiltration is the key here, and letting a lot of this is based off of proposed or nothing's been, I guess, field tested. It's all published values of the hydraulic conductivity. So I think if it would be nice to see some infiltration values, especially at the locations of these proposed outfalls, to get a better understanding of, how much water is going to be, infiltrated into the ground. And, that might be somewhat of our best defense for kind of staving off any nutrient transportation. If that has more residence time in the soil before it gets to the pond, um, it can mitigate any nutrient concerns that we're talking about.
Mr. Best, yeah, my raising the issue was as much a process issue as content. There was a question raised, and in my mind was not resolved. And if we're going to make a decision with an unresolved open question, that concerned me.
Okay, hold on. I think I've got your answers right here. Lawn brush. Okay. So previously, as you had approved it, it was 2,150 square feet of grass cover. Or sorry, 20,150 square foot of grass cover. And now that is only 17,290 square feet of grass cover.
So, reduction of what, 10%?
Ballparkish. Hold on. Since I got the numbers in front of me, let me just run them real quick and give you the actual percentage. About a 16% reduction.
Yes. Okay.
I got this Commissioner Ormrod. I don't know if we have a precedent here in terms of what types of considerations, we could conditions we could put on a permit to limit or control, any nutrients. Is that something town council should review, or do we have any previous permits that we've discussed this issue?
So Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think generally on larger scale projects, sometimes the commission requests or requires a like a management plan on how lawn areas are going to be maintained, particularly if it's going to be owned in common. I don't believe that was part of the subdivision application. I have seen conditions before on permits where it says only organic fertilizers or something like that, but those are usually on older permits. Based on trainings I've been to, I'm not entirely sure if you can do that. Just prohibit the use of fertilizers. I guess you could throw in you could throw in a condition of approval that encourages the property owner to follow best management practices to minimize impacts of using any fertilizers, herbicides, fungicides on the lawn, so that it's not right before a rain event, the right amount for the right area.
So if I can jump in for a second, this is Commissioner Boda. I think, in looking at the plan, I think the thing that sort of has caught my attention is this swale. So you've got the outfall from the roof, and then now we have this combining swale in sort of that first third of the page on what would be on the eastern side. And then you've got an energy dissipator and directing water to the southeast. And now we're looking at, over lawn run. And I think, that's typically a place where we might see some intentional vegetation to, and I don't mean lawn, in order to not just slow down the the flow and help infiltrate, but potentially to uptake any of those additional nutrients prior to them entering the wetland. And I hear Mr. Georgina on the historic nature of this property, but that is not part of our regulations for consideration. Eutrophication is a very real issue, and if we're going to ensure that these wetlands and ponds can persist to capture that water, we need to not expedite eutrophication by sending tons of nutrients into that body of water. And so it seems like there is an opportunity in that swale to be more thoughtful about capturing anything that would have mobilized prior to it heading into the wetland. I think that probably sums up what has caught my attention.
This is Commissioner Ormond. I'll just say, yeah, no, I think that's a great idea to, vegetate that swale with almost like a rain garden or something, right? Not just turf grass, but species that add some value, will slow any velocity down, allow water to infiltrate, and support nutrient uptake and try to attenuate that.
This is Commissioner Bassman. So are we suggesting then that the applicant provide that at the next meeting? Or do you want to deal with that this evening by putting that as a condition in the staff report?
Another potential option would be if the commission's comfortable with that being submitted, and if I find that it looks satisfactory, I could review it administratively.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think that's a nice middle ground. I think you're getting the sense of where we're going with that, and we have done things such as that in the past. So, and that way the applicant can continue to move forward. They have to go to P&Z too, correct? And they're waiting on our permit.
Correct. They have to go to planning and zoning. I'm not entirely sure what that process.
Yeah. So I think
that process is, but
yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
So it seems like in addition to the things outlined in the conditions of approval, looking for vegetation within that swale, the area between the roof stormwater outlet and that swale, that kind of area.
Would you pull them back up? There was one other minor thing.
And the other thing that I have noted here is infiltration testing. Is that like a condition of approval kind of thing prior to construction, doing infiltration testing to confirm that the stormwater will function as designed? What part of the staff report did you want to look at?
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Can you just, let's start at the top and, okay, right there. No. With conditions, I think. Keep going. Number 5, pool water. Can you just go right there? I think in this case, I would just like to be really super clear that wetland water course, that storm drain system includes that swale. That just, I'm sure will look so inviting to run a hose. That was it.
Okay.
So just to confirm, the area you want to be reinforced with species to absorb nutrients and resist erosion, you don't want the pool to be drained into. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it shouldn't. Yeah, right. We don't want it draining down toward the wetland anyway. But
So I will just note that currently it looks like there's the pool fence going down the middle of the swale. So that might have to be adjusted if you're going to be planting in there. But unless you widen the swale and plant on either side.
Yep, I'm gonna have to look at how we're gonna address this.
All right. Any other questions? And I'm assuming the commission doesn't need to see if they're widening swale, because that should also kind of help with potentially slowing water a little bit.
This is Commissioner Boda. So just Mr. Georgina, before we go ahead and vote, is this, we don't design applications. We certainly just do the permitting process and then conditions of approval. So before we go forward with this, is this something that seems completely, you're the engineer. You said that you're not, your background is not ecology. So, but you're representing the property owner at this point. So is this something that it seems reasonable to you, or are we going to end up back here with?
As the applicant really wants a pool, which is really what's reshifting the backyard, and a house of this size, I think the giving up some plantings along the property line is a fairly minimal ask.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? Any questions from you, Mr. Georgina?
Nope. I believe we've covered everything.
Do we have a motion on this application 240802?
This is Commissioner Boda. I can make a motion, but there were some adjustments to the conditions of approval, and I don't have them written down. But I can give it a whirl. So somebody be ready to make an amendment. This is Commissioner Boda. I'd like to make a motion to approve Inland Wetland 240802 195 Cherry Hill with the possible conditions for consideration included as outlined in the 9/26/24 meeting doc. In addition to the conditions for consideration, in number 5, we're also going to add that, clarify that the pool water shall not be drained into where it says a storm drainage system, and very specifically the swale to the southeast. In addition, we are looking for the applicant to submit a planting plan for the swale with the intention of uptaking nutrients and providing additional water uptake as well. Additionally, I'd like to include all of the standard conditions and the general provisions in the issuance of all permits. period. I think there was something else I'm missing. So, but we need a second first.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I'll second that.
Jamie
Question, did
Frederick
we
and the
want-
wetland agent. I
did
think
we
that was
want Jamie-
everything. Unless you wanted to include infiltration testing.
This is Commissioner Boda. I will add infiltration testing to confirm that the site will infiltrate where infiltration is proposed around the pool area. And I'm not looking at the map.
And that
Is it like the north east?
be west.
Can we get a way to name that section of the map? I'm not looking at a map.
Proposed underground detention system.
The proposed underground detention system. Thank you.
Inland Wetland Associate Katie Blanchett. Commissioner Boda, I just have a quick question. After the applicant is to develop a planting plan to provide for uptake of nutrients, and what was the other thing?
Additional water.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that planting plan is to be reviewed by the agent.
Chairman Basserman, do you agree to those?
I do.
Were you the one that seconded?
I do. Okay. On, let's see, Inland Wetland 240802. Commissioner Gokowski, how do you vote?
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Meitzen?
Commissioner Meitzen, aye.
Commissioner Ormrod?
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Papatonis?
Commissioner Carpentonis, nay.
Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Okay, thank you. Mr. Georgina.
Thank you very much for the consideration.
Inland Wetland 240902. Leave 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, 15, 17 Beacon Hill Road and Beacon Hill Road age restricted housing development. Can you bring us up to speed, Jamie?
I'm in my meeting, Terry.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. This application was submitted after a previous application was withdrawn due to time concerns. I have reviewed the application materials enough to be confident in that they are substantially similar to the revised materials that were submitted towards the end of the review of the previous application. When the application was withdrawn back in August, there was some discussion about plan to resubmit and potentially continue the peer review that was already in process. So I think tonight the two topics to focus on are peer review, confirming whether that's appropriate, moving forward with that process, and then also public hearing, whether that's appropriate, the rationale for opening a public hearing and setting a date. So I did prepare a memo today thinking that it might help this conversation a little bit. I don't know if you want me to screen share it and let everyone read it independently, if you want me to read it out loud, or if Everyone had all the time in the world between 5 o'clock in the meeting to go ahead and read it themselves. I'm not sure if somebody's trying to talk or
Where's
if
the background noise coming from? There we go.
so. Should I let everyone read right now?
No,
Sounds good.
I think it's Mr.
Yeah,
Anderson's mic that is picking up some background noise.
Yeah, I shut my door, so hopefully that'll do it. I could turn the mic off. Good.
Thank you.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda. Can you name? There's a bunch of files in here. Which document are we looking at?
This is
The name of it.
1 minute.
Is this 926 memo?
Yes, number 13.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, is it your intention that we deal with the peer review issue first or second?
I don't know that it overly matters. It's kind of the way I have the memo set up, but if you feel differently.
Yeah, I just
This is Commissioner Boda. Do you need a motion for that? Because we can just, I think we don't need to belabor that question.
Yeah, I think that
unless somebody feels like it's a no-brainer. It feels like it's a no-brainer to me. Does anybody feel differently?
No.
So just to recap real quick, the leftover funds for the peer review is $3,160. Last time I touched base with the peer review team, they felt that that was likely an adequate number.
Okay. Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So wait. Do we have a new application number? Wait, hold on. Because we're moving it from inland wetland 240202 to inland wetland 24 09
02
12. What is it?
2409
2402.
Okay. So I will make a motion that the remaining funds of $3,160 from inland wetland 240202 be used for application inland wetland 240902 to do peer review on the same subject property.
Is there a second for that?
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Basserman will second that. Any further discussion? Commissioner Papantonis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Gokowski?
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Meinson?
Commissioner Meinson, aye.
Commissioner Amrad?
This is Commissioner Ormrod. I will remain recused from all matters of this application.
Okay, Commissioner Boda,
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. All right, is Commissioner Basserman, is it time to turn this over to the applicant, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So, based on the last application, I'm anticipating the commission will want to schedule a public hearing for this application as well. So I think it would be appropriate to schedule a public hearing date, and certainly probably appropriate, to just check in with the applicant in doing that process. Generally speaking, the commission likes to have the peer review response in hand prior to opening the public hearing. It helps prevent delays once the public hearing has been opened, and kind of minimizes the amount of revisions that the commission's looking at. Or at least discussing. My recommendation would be to schedule the public hearing for October 24th, unless for whatever reason commissioners have conflicts with that date. Then I would recommend November 14th, which would be the last regularly scheduled meeting that the commission could open the public hearing without an extension from the applicant. I have checked with the peer review team and they would be available for either of those dates. November 14th would be remote only, but we're meeting remotely, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Commissioner Papantonis, I will be here for that October meeting.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Sorry, I'm having mic problems. I won't be here for that October meeting.
You won't be here for the October meeting?
Correct.
Which one?
October
24th.
Commissioner Mines and I won't be here for October 24th either.
Okay, so
Yeah, we're down to maybe not having a quorum.
Jamie, what was the second date?
November 14th.
November 14. Okay, is everybody around for the 14th?
Yes.
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 Hey, Jamie, this is Doug Anderson for the applicant. Is there any possibility of being, since everybody's so familiar with this and peer review is, pretty engaged in this process, is it possible to try for the meeting before the 24th, 14th, or whatever that would be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you, and I can't turn my volume up anymore.
Basically, what I'm asking is, given that the 24th seems to be not an option, and given the, familiarity that the peer review has with the project, I know it's a little tighter timeline, but is it possible to try and move that forward instead of backwards to the October meeting?
Would be October 10th.
So let's see. Today's the 26th.
I mean, we still have to do notice and all that stuff too. So
yeah, we wouldn't be able to notice in the paper for the October 10th meeting. Because it would have had to run today.
Okay.
And October 3rd. Another possibility is potentially doing a special meeting. Seeing a lot of heads being shaken no. I'll just throw out one possibility, given that we've got two people that can't attend October 26th, is a special meeting and canceling the October 26th meeting. I'm still not seeing a lot of interest in doing that. So,
On the this is Commissioner Bassman, on the October 24th, with two people not able to attend, we just have the minimum number. So I guess as long as everybody can commit at this point to the 24th meeting, come hell or high water, I guess we could have it on the 24th. Would be 4 commissioners.
Well, we've got one commissioner present that's recused. So the question, there's one
Right.
commissioner that's not here this evening. So I don't know if they're able to attend
Right.
on October 24th or not.
Right.
I suppose one option is we could schedule it for October 24th, and then if there's not a quorum, table it to November 14th in case that commissioner can be there. And if they can't, it would be opened without discussion and continue to November 14th, but it gives us a chance of getting it started sooner.
But this is Commissioner Boda, but the thing is that if we start the public hearing and we don't use that public hearing to have any conversation whatsoever, I don't want us to run up against timetables again. And I'm sure that that Mr. Anderson would not be a fan of that either.
Yeah, I would say
I don't want to speak for you, but
yeah, I would agree with that. I would say if that's going to be a 50-50 scenario, then I would say we would want to hedge off of that and go to the meeting that everybody is going to be there.
Sounds like November.
So in addition to setting a public hearing date,
reasoning.
There's also the reason.
Can I make one more just point there? And I don't know when, regarding the modification to the or request for reduction of the application fee. I don't know if that needs to get on the record or not, but we would request that be looked at, towards the end of the process here, in that we're 2 inland wetland applications in to the tune of about $27,000 and about $9,000. So we're about $36,000 into application fees on this submission here. So I just would like to have on the record that, and we had some, discussion about that at the previous meetings, about looking at that as we got deeper into the second submission. So not looking for any reduction request now, but at some point, towards the end of this process, would want to have on the record that we have the ability to revisit the cumulative wetlands application fees, applied, looked at with respect to this application.
This is Commissioner Boda. I feel like we had, and I could be mixing this up with another site that had, that also had a resubmittal, but, or a modification that was very minor. But I feel like we just had a substantial conversation about this on this property. And so not for this moment, but I'm wondering if the minutes from that could be utilized to essentially create a bulleted list of the highlights of that conversation of where we landed. Because I do think that we had hashed it out for quite a while and come up with a solid plan. That was a few weeks ago. I don't remember what that plan is, but
yeah, I think I recall the plan. The plan was that we would revisit it, with a request at this, if we were to resubmit right away, right? So I think there was a concern, well, what if we didn't show up for another year or 6 months, and it was a complete redo of the whole process. That obviously would be a different scenario, but the anticipation was at that time that we would immediately resubmit at the next, available date, which we've done. And unfortunately, we didn't have a quorum at the last meeting, so a public hearing couldn't be scheduled for, which presumably would have been the next meeting. But so, like I said, I'm not looking for any, because it's too premature to talk about, what that would look like, because we don't know where this application is going. But again, given the extent and the amount of dollars that have been, expended in application fees that are, supposed to reflect the cost to review these applications. Again, we would respectfully request that be looked at and analyzed. So at some point in the future, we can have that dialogue about a reduction in the fee.
Okay.
Jamie Frederick.
I believe it's on the record.
Staff certainly can look at past practice and the conversation from the August meeting. I just also want to indicate that a fee reduction request should be submitted in writing prior to the end of the review so that reduction can be considered in line with the language in Regulation 19.7. And the more you can kind of guide the commission on what you're requesting a reduction of and the rationale, I think the easier it is for them to consider. So I think that's enough on the fee for now.
I'm ready to make a motion on the public hearing. I'm ready. Can we do that? Right. Do we need to discuss it?
The rationale for the public hearing, I think, is important to have included. But
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. This is Commissioner Boda, and looking at the application, I'm looking at the permit application, and it does say in the wetland area of disturbance 9,673 square feet, correct? I'm reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is Commissioner Boda, and I would like to make a motion to identify application. Where'd the number go? I just had it. Inland Wetland 240902 be designated as an application with significant impact on wetlands as part of their application indicates wetland fill of 9,673 square feet. And that would call that, given that the application is proposing to have significant impact on wetlands, that this application be done through the public hearing process.
Do we have a second on that motion?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Can you just add the date of opening the public hearing?
And the public hearing to be, this is Commissioner Boda. I would like to amend the motion to include the start of the public hearing as November 14th, 2024.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I second that amendment.
Okay. Commissioner Papantonis?
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Meinson?
Commissioner Meinson, aye.
Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Goklowski?
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. All right. Enforcement activity. TC Correct 240901 and the notice of violation for 9 High Plains Road. Sedimentation of the pond located on the property known as 40 Hickory Hill Lane. This is a continuation of the show cause hearing. Do we have anybody for 9 High Plains Road on the call?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Yes, I believe we have the contractor that conducted the work at 9 High Plains on the call. I also talked with the father of the property owner this morning about kind of where they're at in the process. So it's my understanding that the water sample has been collected for the flocculant analysis and has been sent to the company to conduct that analysis to help determine the appropriate flocculant material to use to bind to the material. He wasn't sure when they would get those results back, but as I recall, soil scientist George Logan seemed to think that it would be available for the October 14th meeting. They have sodded a decent portion of the site. I do have pictures available if the commission wants to see it. They do have 10,000 square feet of sod being delivered early next week and plan to finish sodding remaining bare areas. All of the area along the front of the site and a decent amount of the slope has been sodded. Everything was looking stable, pretty stable when I was out there, and I didn't see any evidence of new material getting into the roadway. So I don't know if you want to hand it over to the contractor real quick to see if he has any additional updates, information he wants to share prior to continuing with recommendations for moving forward.
Jamie, Commissioner Gokowski, can you pop up those pictures that you took? Let's see what, because I know we saw some before pictures, and I just want to see.
And this is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, you mentioned the 14th. It's the 10th, isn't it? The meeting?
Yes.
Or am I?
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
I've been doing that all day. All right, everyone seeing pictures?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yes.
pictures we had last time, this entire front yard was bare dirt. It's now sodded. There's a couple patches that probably need to be replaced, but it's holding. And you can see the erosion controls are intact. Slope in the back. And then over by the driveway area is kind of the areas that still, and along the front of the house, that still need a little bit of stabilization. But as you can see, it doesn't look like anything fresh really is entering the roadway, and definitely not the catch basin, as it has inlet protection installed. So again, I don't know, do you want me to run right into the recommendations? Do you want to see if the contractor has any comments?
Yeah, why don't we hear it from the contractor? He spent some time here waiting, so why don't we hear it from him at this point? Floor is yours, sir.
If you can unmute, Brent.
Yes, Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Brent Juniver of BMD Excavation. Yes, so we've so far we've brought in fresh topsoil, graded it, and put down 20,000 square feet of sod, as you saw. And the homeowner has ordered a third load of 10,000, which is coming Tuesday to pretty much cover the rest of any disturbed areas. So as Jamie mentioned, yeah, everything's been holding up well. I actually stopped by there today. I could see you were there. I noticed the two hay bales. Obviously, it looked like a car had hit the two that I had on top of the basin. I repositioned those this evening. And because we had a small rain event, I just ran by the pond to see if that changed at all. And it's still the same as it looked yesterday and whatnot. But just a lot of allergy or stagnant water at this point. But I feel pretty confident that everything's holding up well, and hopefully we'll get just enough rain to get this sod to take well, which he has irrigation as well to maintain it. So we've come a long way in a short period of time. So we're going to keep all the erosion control in until everything is probably, I would say, until spring at this point, just to be safe. Any questions for me?
Appreciate the quick turnaround.
Thanks.
All right. So Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think obviously the next big step we're waiting for is the results of the water testing for the flocculant material.
Correct.
So, and then in addition to that, the commission had also requested a recommendation for an appropriate monitoring timeframe to ensure that the project works as intended. And I'm assuming also so that it can be assessed that there's been no side effects, unanticipated side effects from the application. I guess the question I have for the commission is, I'm assuming that you would want to review that material, rather than, I guess the question is, do you want to review that material hopefully at the next meeting, if it's available, or do you want staff to review it to try and expedite the process and prevent delays in the application? We haven't had use of flocculant material while I've been here, so I'm assuming the commission wants to review that, but
This is Commissioner
Bassman. I think it's, go ahead, David.
I think at this stage of the game, I think the applicant has shown that they're willing to do what's necessary to make things right for both properties, not just theirs, but the property that was affected by this. I see that the controls are still in place, and I think at this stage of the game, unless if any bells really come off with the report coming back, I think we can probably just leave it in Jamie's lap to monitor it at this stage of the game. They said that they were going to do certain things, and they did say what they were going to do. They did do what they were supposed to do.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So one thing I kind of just want to throw out there for consideration is that this order is still kind of open-ended. An order remains in effect until the commission makes a decision on the order. So to that end, I think it kind of follows up on it making sense for the commission to review that material, because the commission's gonna have to make a decision on that order, so that way the recipients of the order know the exact game plan for resolution to the order and getting it completely closed out and done. So I don't know, maybe
the
the
other thing
ideal.
The other thing is that this is something relatively new, and therefore the information would be helpful to the commission, everybody, to understand how a flocculant can be used, and we may have applications going forward for this. So I'm hopeful that we can review that at the next meeting.
This is Commissioner Boda. I couldn't agree more. I think that it's a good opportunity for continuing education for the commission, and anytime we get something unique like this, I think it is really helpful for us and our experience and our knowledge base.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I might suggest kind of an open-endedness in the continuation of the show cause hearing to either let's see if I can get the dates right, October 10th or October 24th meeting, whichever one is earlier and the results of the flocculant water testing are available for review. Because I don't think that we need to make them come October 10th if they don't have the results. I would imagine they hopefully will, but if they don't, there's no point in checking in at this point that I can think of.
Agreed.
Yes, Brent Juniper, BMD, I'm sorry. I know the homeowners are, they're about to get married and would love to get permitting and everything being stabilized. I understand the fact that it would be great for you guys to get educated and us as well, but being as how everything's stabilized, is it possible to at least let them move forward with some remodeling within the house at this point?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. As I mentioned at the last meeting, this isn't holding up any other permitting.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay.
Anything else on this?
Yeah, so I just want to check. So for that next meeting, is there any additional information the commission wants aside from the proposed flocculant material that's to be used and a monitoring regime for after the implementation of the flocculant?
I get, this is Commissioner Boda. I guess I'm wondering if part of that plan is going to articulate goals and the time frame for turbidity in that water body. I think that would be really helpful to know what our baseline is currently, what their goal is, and the I guess benchmarks to get there.
Was that addressed to me? I'm assuming until we get test results back, we really don't have any plan in place.
That would be part. That's not something that you would have right now. That would be part of the plan that comes forward.
Right.
Is that we need a baseline number. So turbidity measured in NTUs, and so anybody who's doing that kind of testing could provide that data, and then provide targets for goal turbidity, and then what are some using the flocculant, like how are we going to measure success with that flocculant? Where do we expect the turbidity to be following that application?
Right. Yeah, that would be up to them. I'm not familiar with any of that science, so.
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I would expect that to come from George Logan.
Right.
And I know we touched base on that a little bit last time, so I will follow up with all the parties regarding the discussion from this evening and what's expected for when we're continuing discussion. And like I said, I'd probably suggest keeping that open-ended just so that we're not making everyone come if they're not ready for October 10th.
Okay.
So show cause hearing is being continued to October 10th or October 24th, whichever meeting the materials are available for?
Correct.
Yes, correct. We'll reach out to you, Jamie, and let you know as soon as we hear, so we can get on or off your docket for that night. So as soon as we hear something, we'll get in touch.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you, Commission.
You're welcome. Case correct 240902, 17182 Leeds Island Road, clearing and earth disturbance without a permit. Again, a continuation of a show cause hearing. Jamie, you don't see the party present.
Get on. Thank you.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Yeah, just for clarification, is there anyone present this evening for this item? All right. So I did reach out to the property owner. As I mentioned at the last meeting, the mailing address was the same as the physical address, which is an undeveloped lot. So I was a little bit hesitant as to whether or not the order was received by the property owner. After the last meeting, I sent the order also to the agent for the LLC. I did get a call from the property owner and have discussed the fact that we need to meet on site and that he needs to hire a soil scientist. He was not feeling well, so I had suggested, hopefully we can schedule something for next week, and that in the interim he should work on trying to hire a soil scientist to do the investigation requested in the order. So I can quickly outline what has happened and what I'm looking for. And ultimately, I think my recommendation at this point would be for an on-site meeting with myself and the property owner at the minimum prior to the next meeting, and ideally a meeting with myself, the owner, and the hired soil scientist to start going over the required information.
Is it more beneficial for the commission to hear that after you've had the meeting, or
if you don't want to go over it right now and you want to give it until the next month when hopefully we've got productive steps, that works for me. As I do think that there should be. I think that we're at a point though where we do want to make sure that this is being followed up on in a timely manner. So I do think. I don't know if the commission wants me to send a follow-up letter basically stating that we need to have that on-site meeting prior to October 10th, or else the commission may look to escalate. May look to take further
Take the
enforcement
next step.
action.
Yeah.
Something to kind of help move things along and make sure he understands that this is not something that's going to go away. So an update letter saying we need to meet on site prior to the next meeting, which is when the show cause has been continued to, which is October 10th. Is that correct and fair?
Works for me.
All right.
Sounds good.
Piece and correct 240903 20 Huntington Drive, grading and vegetation removal within 100 feet of a wetland. This is the show cause hearing. Again, Jamie, can you frame this for us? This has been around. No, not so much.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I received a phone call that there was activity going on at 20 Huntington. I have the property owner's contact information, so I called him to inquire. Met him on site, and I told him to stop doing any further work, install erosion controls, and that he needed to stabilize the disturbed area this seeding season. And I told him that he should plan to submit an application for what he wants to do in the area. Essentially, he has cleared the understory layer, which consisted a lot of mugwort, but also in doing so has completely disturbed the soil and has kind of been regrading a little bit. So on this one, I think my biggest concern is that the area that erosion controls are installed, number one, and number two, that the area is stabilized. Ideally this fall seeding season, if possible, with like an annual rye or something, to kind of help hold soil in place while he's coming up with a plan. The activity extends at its closest point 30 feet from the wetland, which was flagged a couple times over the last couple years, and conservation signs were installed. So I measured from the conservation sign. Like I said, it was about 30 feet. Just screen share real quick so you guys can see what it looks like. As you can see, there's definitely ground disturbance. Some of this was, or most of this material was already here. It is piled up against trees. I didn't talk about that with the property owner. It probably will kill the trees if it stays there. So I don't know if you want me to expand on things to tell him that this material should be removed. So I guess, long story short, I have not heard back from the property owner. However, I did get an email shortly before our meeting from a contractor that he worked with previously on another part of his site about what he needs to do to resolve this. So again, I think the main thing is getting those erosion controls installed, getting this area seeded, at least in a temporary standpoint, and then submitting an application for whatever it is he's looking to do here. Because at this point, like, I think an application is appropriate. I don't think that that activity he has done needs drastic remediation beyond stabilizing it and protecting the wetland area. There is also a dead tree, I believe it's this one right here, that he is looking to remove. So this is the 30 feet and grading areas over here. And this is the dead tree. So again, I said that should be part of the application. So I don't know how the commission wants to proceed. Do you want to?
Maybe where is those trees that have all the soil piled up on top of them? What is their proximity to the wetland?
Let's see. I don't think I threw a GIS map in here. Of course not.
I mean, you can. You know what? Let me rephrase that. Again, this is Commissioner Boda. So, if those trees are within, I don't know, 20 feet or 30 feet to the wetland and or are providing shade to the wetland, I would say that the soil needs to come off of them post haste very quickly, so that they are not killed. Yeah, other than, so if we're looking at an impact to wetlands, I would say pull that soil off of the trees. Otherwise, we can wait to deal with it until there's an application.
Okay. So 30 feet is probably around where this wood is. And that's about where the piling starts.
So then I would say, yeah, pull that back.
Probably around where this tree is, straight back. It pitches this way and then it kind of pitches the other way. So I guess, would it be fair to say anything from the local high point towards the wetland?
Yeah.
Just Commissioner Papantonis, I have a question. We've dealt with this person before, haven't we?
Yes.
And was it on this property or was it on a different property?
This property.
Okay. Because my recollection is that this was a long fight, or not fight, but we had a hard time getting him to come to meetings in the past to deal with the other issues. Am I misremembering, or am I correct with that?
This property has been on the commission's agenda quite a bit over the last couple of years. So part of the reason why I issued a cease and correct order is because there's immediate action that needs to occur, such as the installing of erosion controls and stabilizing the soil, but also to make sure we're starting off with this is important and it needs to happen and it needs to happen now. And like I said, I did get an email from the contractor, so I will follow up with them tomorrow. Received it after, a couple hours before the meeting, so I figured I might as well just wait until this conversation has happened. So at this time, does the commission want to review the order and make a determination on the order, or do you want me to follow up on the things we've discussed about getting erosion controls installed, removing the soil pad up against the trees within the area that drains towards the wetland, and getting the area temporarily stabilized with the understanding that an application will be submitted for long-term plans?
Jamie, Commissioner Gokowski, one quick question. You mentioned that there was a dead tree that they wanted to take down. Is it in close proximity of the structure, or is it more closer to the wetlands?
I think it's pretty much in the middle. I think that tree is probably pretty close to 100 feet away from the wetland. I'm not really worried about that tree being removed. Okay. I kind of would rather he address that tree rather than later on address the tree and other trees around it. I So I think, being clear about the limits of what is happening.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, do you give him a date by which those erosion controls have to be installed?
This is the wrong order. 1 minute. I gave him until September 20th. I sent him a follow-up email, I believe this morning, and I did not hear back about inspecting the erosion controls. So at this point, I do not know if the erosion controls have been installed. And it's past the date that I gave him. Because he had mentioned, I met with him last Friday. Oh wait, no, I met with him, 20th is when I met with him. I gave him until Tuesday, the 24th, and I've not heard from him. So in that follow-up letter, I could give him another deadline for getting the erosion controls installed.
Is it viewable from the road as to whether the erosion controls are put in or not?
No.
Gotcha.
I could indicate that the erosion controls need to be installed by a certain date and inspected by a certain date, or else fines will be issued.
I guess that's kind of where I'm leaning. Given, as Commissioner Papadonis mentioned, that this has, been back and forth to this commission any number of times, I'm not sure we need to hesitate in taking appropriate action.
Commissioner Papadonis, I think we've been ignored before. I think we need to make him know that we're not fooling.
Yeah. So I can give him. Let me just look at the weather real quick. Of course, I don't have that. I want to give him enough time that by the time he gets the order or the updated letter, he has some time to react to it. Although the citation process also gives him an extra 2 days to get it done before he actually gets cited. So, yeah.
Well, we meet on the 10th.
Weather's not going to help. I could send the letter out tomorrow. I've got his email address. I've got his phone number. And I could give him until Wednesday. And if it's not done by end of business day on Wednesday, I'll be sending that citation.
Okay. Anybody feel differently?
No.
No.
Anything else on this?
So does the commission want to review and make a decision on the order, or do you want to continue the order to the October 10th October 10th meeting?
That would be my vote.
Continue?
Yes.
All right. And I'll also
Anybody
follow
else
up
on
with the
this?
landscaper about what the commission's looking for.
I'm sorry, say that again, Jamie.
I will also respond to the landscaper that contacted him about what the commission is looking for.
Great. Okay, we have a application for receipt inland wetland 240903, 5 Tin Oak Drive, 20,000 square foot building with associated site improvements. It's an application for receipt. Anything of note on this, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Keep it pretty quick. We do have a representative present. I did indicate to the applicant that the commission might want to do a site walk for this application. So I think that's the main thing I'm requesting the commission to consider this evening. They did submit it a week prior to the meeting, so they do have the opportunity to give a brief 5 to 10 minute presentation based on our revised guidelines. There's a sewer line kind of near the wetland, which I understand the wastewater department will be clearing probably tomorrow, so that would help with access if the commission wanted to do a site walk to be able to see the wetland area and approximate stormwater area. And if we are setting a site walk, letting the applicant know what you might want to see marked in the field, understanding that it is an undeveloped site. And right now, there is an interior portion of the site that was cleared previously, and it's very dense Japanese knotweed. So certain parts of the site are going to be a little bit difficult to access. So with the rambling on, I'll hand it over to the applicant.
Jeremy Gannon from Criscolo Engineering. Share my screen here. I'll give a quick brief summary of this thing. All right. Can you guys all see that?
Yep.
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
this property right here, it's roughly about 3.5 acres long. It's located in the IG2 zoning district. The topography runs from west to east, and the inland wetlands line runs along the eastern boundary of the property. So here's their intention, and it's going to be a 20,000 square foot commercial building located here. Once again, the inland wetland area will be along here, and when we get into the grading, this is kind of what we're imagining, and pretty much from the roof area and the parking area, everything will be, the storm runoff will be directed through a series of catch basins that'll be rerouted through an oil water separator over here, and then make its way down to this large retention basin. After that, it would then again be dissipated through here and trickle down over here that abuts the inland wetland over there. So that would be kind of up your guys' alley. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got for you.
This is Commissioner Bassman. On the east side of the building, I guess the parking lot to the retention basin. What's that slope?
That's all 3 to
Yeah.
1. Yep.
It's all 3 to 1. Okay.
It's 3 to 1, and our intention is to stay out of that easement, obviously, over here, the sewer easement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know engineering has sent some comments already. We plan to have those addressed on the actual public hearing date, but this is what we got so far. So.
This is Commissioner Boda. Is there a water course on the eastern side?
I
see the wetland flags, but just having been in that general area.
There's a ton, actually. If I switch over here, the GIS, so if we're here, I don't know. Looks like there's a tiny bit of a stream or something here. But this whole property back here, it's heavily inland wetlands.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. There is a water course through, there's a main water course through that wetland complex. I don't believe it's very close to that property line, but I can look in our files to see if I have any additional information on that for the commission's review.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Jamie, you indicated you felt the site walk would be helpful.
I think this is typically the kind of site where the commission considers a site walk. Alternatively, if commissioners feel they can do a drive-by and that satisfies their curiosity. But like I said, I do believe that sewer easement is going to be cleared, so that would give the commission access to kind of view that wetland area pretty nicely. So it's up to the commission. I will say that I am likely away the first weekend in October, so I would request, if possible, to do it a weekday. but that's also if the commission wants to do it.
Is your suggestion to do it the day of the 10th, but earlier on the 10th, or some other day during the week?
Personally, I like to do it a different day than the meeting because I have to get everything set up in the office and make sure I've got all the files in the right places. But we've done it before and I made it work, so it depends on your availability. Usually the commission does it the week of the meeting or the weekend or the Thursday before the meeting.
This is Commissioner Boda. I mean, I do think it's a site we can probably see, we can access pretty well from Sycamore and from Pin Oak Drive. If we were to do a site walk, I would have more flexibility on a Saturday. Thursdays are already jammed, as are Wednesdays and Tuesdays. But don't set the site walk based on me.
Well, we should set the site walk based on commissioners because if commissioners aren't going to attend, there's no point in having one. And Saturday is possible. Either I could make it work or potentially we could have Katie go or just so that we can have minutes.
So are we talking about October 5th?
That works for me.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I will be out of town on the 5th.
Jamie, this is Katie. I can do the 5th.
The other option is we could do it potentially this Saturday if that's going to work for the applicant. That's kind of short notice.
Yeah, I'd have to talk to Mr. DeMayo, but I could probably try to call him tomorrow and see if that's possible.
Any thoughts that maybe this Saturday is going to be very rainy?
Right.
I mean, it's a great time to see a wetland and a water course, but
And also, in case they don't get out there tomorrow and it's Monday or Tuesday of next week, it might be good to give them some extra time.
So the 5th at 10 o'clock, maybe?
sounds good.
Anything else on this?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, just a point of clarification. I think there was mention of hearing earlier. The commission may want to determine whether or not a public hearing is warranted on this. I don't think you have to determine that this evening.
This is Commissioner Boda. Did I miss something? Is there fill proposed?
No. This isn't one where I would say the commission would typically have a public hearing, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was completely atypical, but there's no filling. However, the stormwater.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I was just wondering what the driver would for a public hearing would be.
The stormwater outlet's very close to the wetland boundary. So again, there's three reasons the commission might have a public hearing. One is if the commission receives a petition requesting a public hearing within the allotted time frame. One is if the commission determines it's in the public's best interest, which is pretty broad. And three is if the commission has makes a finding that the proposed activity may have a significant impact on wetlands or watercourses. So
I think we reserve judgment until the site walk.
Yeah, I don't think that it falls into an obvious category, so I think it makes sense to hold off. I don't think it defaults to it. So, but there was mention of a hearing, so in case anyone's wondering, does that mean we're having a hearing? Not necessarily, however, it's always something the commission can consider.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned, if all of a sudden our default becomes a public hearing, we may have more public hearings than fit the bill in terms of the criteria. So, okay. Any other business? Says none. No correspondence and announcements. Anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda?
Jamie, Katie, this is Commissioner Boda. I saw the piece for Sipwig, and I need to confirm I can get coverage, but I think I'd like to register for that. I'll confirm tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be good because I already did the check request, but it's not going to go out till next week. So if you could let me know, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And this is the last call for Kakiwik as well. So if anybody wants to register for Kakiwik, please let me know by tomorrow.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Second that motion.
Second.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.